It was really seeing your flyer for the project that made me inquire into my great-grandfather. I knew that I had a great-grandfather who died during World War One, but that was all I knew. I didn't even know his first name when I started this. So I knew that some people in my family had done a little bit of research, and so it was really a matter of pulling all the little pieces or threads together. So, one auntie had gone to England and researched my great-grandfather's history. There were medals that my mother was holding, there were photos here and there, so it was quite an interesting process to pull it all together. So I discovered that his name was Reginald Secker, which is my maiden name, so he is my father's grandfather. He was born in St Ives in Cambridgeshire in England in 1884, and he married his wife Gertrude quite young, and my grandfather was born soon after. He enlisted in 1915, which means that he volunteered to go to war because, mandatory, what do they call it? Conscription wasn't introduced till a year later. So we found out through this that he chose to go to war. And he volunteered for the 4th Battalion Bedfordshire Regiment from St Ives in Cambridgeshire. It was only 2 years later that he died, so he didn't spend a long time in the war. We have thought and questioned why did he go to war, because he already had 2 small sons at that time, and I think he probably could have not gone or got out of it if he had not wanted to. But I guess thinking back, patriotism was probably pretty strong, and the pull to go and do your duty for your country was probably what made him go. So he went. There's very little information that I can find what happened between his enlistment and his death. I've asked at length if there are any photos or if there are any letters that were sent back. There's none that we can find on record. All that we have are a couple of photos. This one here, that's his enlistment photo.
Fantastic. And who holds that photo?
My mother has the original of that, so it's my father's grandfather, and my mum keeps all the records. And so we know that they had a formal photo taken before they went off. So that was his first photo. So that's Reginald Secker, Senior. And this wee photo here, I've only got a small copy, but we think this was sent to his wife, my great-grandmother, during the war at some time, because there's an X above his name, and we think that obviously indicates which one he is. But my auntie was quite bemused by this photo. She thinks it's quite nice how they're just looking very relaxed and very casual, and I think it indicates they probably spend a lot of time just doing nothing, waiting around. So, and you get that sense from this photo. So, regarding his death, I've been to the monument in St Ives and seen his name on there's a monument in the centre of the town there in England. It says that he died in the battle on Vimy Ridge. I think it's called Vimy Ridge. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But however, we've found out through a bit of research that that's actually incorrect. It's been labelled incorrectly on the monument. We think, as far as we know, that he died in the Battle of I think it's Arras. Is it Arras? Arras. There's no body, there was no remains, nothing was returned. However, there is a monument in Pas de Calais, France. I might be saying that wrong. There's a large Arras memorial there, and his name is actually commemorated in that memorial. So his death was listed on the 29th of April on 1917. Okay. What happened after that? It's a classic story. My great-grandmother got a telegram or some kind of letter to say that he wasn't coming back. My grandfather, who has passed away quite a while ago now, did speak once about the shock, and the emotion of that time. of when his mother was informed that he's not coming back. He was a small boy at that time, and she struggled, I think, to survive post World War One in a pretty grim England at that time, and eventually made the decision to come to New Zealand with two small boys and settle here, which is how I came to live here.
That's quite amazing, actually, for that time. Do you know
I think
why?
so.
Did she have family?
She came with a male friend, I think, and they settled here and got married. So I think, I don't know about the relationships involved there, but my father knew him as his uncle at the time, and she came here and settled with him. They got married and settled down. They didn't have any more children. They had the two boys, and carried on life here. She was a bit of a hard character, I think, a bit of an interesting character from what I've heard. So I think she must have been quite a strong woman to pick up and to leave the country. I do know that she survived by playing the piano for the talkies in the movies, and she sold lollies from the front of her house. You know, typical post-war widow activity in order to survive, I think. There is one interesting connection between England and New Zealand in that, because we're very sure he died in the Battle of Arras, there was the tunnel there that was built by the New Zealand miners, and it's very likely that he took shelter in the tunnel that was built by New Zealanders, so I feel that's quite a nice connection. He would not have known that his wife and small children would eventually leave England and come to live in New Zealand. So, you know, he might have taken some comfort in that fact. Other than that, there's possibly more to the story that could be uncovered one day. We don't know, but there's no great stories of heroics or no particularly special medals. There are just these medals here that we do hold. I don't really know much about them or what they mean. That's what we've got. And this is a photo of the Arras Memorial in France, and his name is on the plaque there, and that's really all that they have. There's a death certificate as well, and his place of death is listed as the British Expeditionary Forces. There's no actual place or remains or place of burial or anything like that, because we suspect they didn't want to uncover the whereabouts when he died, or where he was when he died. So that's really all I know at this point. I feel like there's possibly more to the story. I'm kind of curious now to find out. I think in the 2 years that he was away, it's quite possible he did write a letter, and if so, did anybody hold on to those letters or find out, what his experience was like? But other than that, it's quite sad that there is no grave. It's just a very common story, I think, which I think is why it needs to be told.
Absolutely. And through your childhood, were you told anything about him?
Not a lot. I think my grandfather probably didn't care to talk about it that much. I think it was pretty traumatic for him. He suffered from mental illness in his life, and I think losing his father as a small boy and then coming to New Zealand was probably something that affected him as he got older. So no, I didn't hear a lot about it. My father, he's quite anti-war as a result. He feels the whole thing was a shocking waste of life, and that's his take on it. So, when I ask questions, I get some information from some people, but, it's just sadness, really, I think.
Absolutely. Did you go to Anzac Day memorials as you were growing up?
Well, I was a girl guide, so I had to march down the street. So that was my experience of Anzac Day. The medals are there if anyone in the family wishes to wear them on Anzac Day, so and they're available for anyone in the family who wants to do that. So you never know, I just might do that.
Yeah. And how do you feel about Anzac Day?
This makes it a whole lot more meaningful for me, actually. I understand what happened. I'm a teacher, so I know the history and understanding, but I think in having researched this, the gap's got a whole lot smaller. You know, this is now not just some distant relative, but it's my father's grandfather, you know, and it's my grandfather's dad. And I knew my granddad all my life, you know, like all my younger life really. So I think I understand perhaps my grandfather more through this, because I think it must have been very tough as a small boy to have this event and then be shifted and to come to another country. And I think it probably did take its toll on his mental health and his later life. But I don't know. There's quite a lot of unanswered questions. Yeah.
Maybe for his mother not to know that there was a body buried.
Quite possibly.
No belongings.
No closure like we kind of expect these days. People will go to great lengths to look for remains, but there must have been just so many. The body count must have been incredibly high. It was probably just about impossible to sort that out. So although I know some people do have had that kind of closure when they've been looking into this, we know that there are no remains. So I do feel that's quite sad. We've travelled a lot, and my parents have travelled a lot. I think it would be quite nice if there was some sort of gravesite for him, but still there is his name on a wall, and that is commemorative, and that is far better than just absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
You know? So you never know, there might be more to the story.
Yeah. And I think it's you writing it down.
Yeah, and it is
more
interesting that the monument in England has not got it right as to where he was, because it must have been really confusing for them to know all this information, and so to put it all together. It takes a little bit of time, but that's as much as we know. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
No worries, it's my pleasure. No, it was interesting. So